All right. It's just about noon, so welcome everyone to our last conference year-round webinar of the year. We're going to be going over some tips on how to create a winning proposal for the call for proposals. We have the call for proposals open for our 2022 conference and expo that will be held in Orlando next November. And so we're going to go over a few things that will help make it easier to submit that application. Some of the biggest mistakes we see people make, and then also on what kind of content we're looking for. So we're going to start with some of those more technical aspects. The first one being the biggest challenge we've seen people have in the past, which is videos. So this submission does require that you submit a submission link, a video link in your submission. And so we want to make sure that that there is a video in the submission. Not having a video is a huge barrier for a lot of people, because our reviewers do take that into heavy consideration when they do scoring. So without a video, there's a lot of points lost on that submission review. It does not have to be from a live course. So you do not have to have it come from a professional recording or a live course that you've done. This can simply be something that demonstrates your capabilities in speaking, your speaking skills. So feel free to, if you do not have a recording handy for yourself, to create one. And while doing that, our best suggestion is to edit that clip down to the best piece of your skills. So you don't want to have something that has a 2-minute intro where there's a lot of hoopla of people introducing you, introducing each other. You want to cut all of that out and get right into the meat of your presentation so that people can really see your skills come to life. Because most of our reviewers are really only going to be watching 1 to 2 minutes of that video. So it does not need to be a full-length video. It can just be a clip, and it really should just be a clip of your best stuff. It does not have to be on the topic in which you are submitting. However, it does help. We have seen that people do get a better sense of things when it is on the topic. However, it is just supposed to be meant to demonstrate your skills. It must include the protocols, so that HTTP:// that should be included as part of the link. And that is also, there's also a reminder in that field when you are inserting it. And then, as we said, just edit it to the clip of your best stuff, so that people get a real feel for what you're going to be able to bring to the table. Now, it can also be a video of you doing a Zoom, like presenting virtually, because we do still present virtually throughout the year. And so if you do have something that is virtual or in person, that also does not matter. You can choose either of those formats to submit. It just needs to be a video link demonstrating your skills. The submission content itself, really quick and clear. Titles, there is such a thing as too clever. People really need to have a feeling of what they're going to walk away with and what the theme of the content is. So just make sure that your title is very clear and communicates what people can expect from the content you're going to present. Same with the key takeaways. It really should be very succinct. We don't need paragraphs, just 1 or 2 sentences with really clear takeaways of what you expect people to be able to learn from attending your session. And finally, that description should really be interesting and clear and ready to publish. So adding other details is not the appropriate place here, because this is what we do take, copy and paste right into the website if you have been selected and we start promoting your content. Formatting. You're going to see a variety of formats available to you to choose. And so this is just kind of an overview of the different ways in which education and content can be delivered to your audience. We want to make sure that the format that you're using is the best one for the content that you are conveying to the audience. So please make sure that when you are going through and selecting, that you've really thought about what that format is going to be that best fits the content that you want to teach while we're at the conference. 2 of the items missing from here are special types of sessions, and we'll talk about that next. So just wanted to go through the review. So these are going to be the 60-minute slots. So all of our slots for education are 60 minutes. And within that 60 minutes, you decide what that content mix looks like. So you could choose to do 45 minutes of content and 15 minutes of Q&A, or even 30 minutes of content and 15 minutes of Q&A. We always suggest that a Q&A portion is added to the session, and you can decide if that gets tacked onto the end or if it's part of the content itself. So again, everybody will have 60 minutes. How you use that 60 minutes is up to you. And you can use as few as 45 minutes, as long as it does include that Q&A. So next we'll move on to these two special, well, actually, we'll talk about field experiences first, because this is our newest format. And so this coming year in 2022, we will be experimenting with a new format, which will be half-day or full-day pre-conference experiences. So a field experience really is going to be on that Wednesday or Thursday before the Friday, Saturday, Sunday of the official conference, so that we're not taking people away and off-site during those meeting, education, and expo times. So it'll be Wednesday or Thursday, and it will be an excursion, usually off property, and the excursion should be integral to the learning. So for instance, you could submit something on drone photography, and you can pick a place that would be open enough to be able to use that, or a building or a home offsite where you can demonstrate drone photography at a home. And those learners will get that full experience, and it enhances the experience. So the takeaway here is that if it's something that's going to be on one of these Wednesday or Thursday courses, that the reason for leaving is pertinent to the learning and the education that you're trying to convey. So please just keep that in mind as you submit these. Obviously, there will be a very few number of these selected. So it really should be, if you're really solid quality content that has a reason for leaving the convention center to be learned. So that's that one. And then also something I don't have a slide on, but just want to touch on, there's a networking session format that is also available in the dropdown. And those are new and dedicated spaces for facilitated learning. So it's a facilitated conversation around a topic, but it's not meant to be a formal education session. And so we have incorporated those. If you came to the conference this year, they were at the end of the day, Friday and Saturday, and midday on Sunday. We had 45 minutes dedicated to just a networking session that was around a facilitated content topic. So those can also be submitted through the system when you're in there for the proposals. Next, we're going to switch to the content itself. So submitting a winning proposal has a few elements to it, and these are going to be the things that the committee is most focused on as they are rating your proposal. The first is going to be, is it inclusive? Does it feel like something that applies to a national audience? Does it feel like something that applies to multiple markets? Is it inclusive to people of a variety of backgrounds and neighborhoods? So you'll want to make sure that the content that you're submitting is for a national audience. That's the takeaway here. And a national audience is a diverse one. The next is innovative. You want to make sure that you're not rehashing things that have been said a million times before. So if you're picking a bread and butter topic like marketing or lead generation, you want to make sure that the content you are trying to convey is innovative in a new way or a new perspective, uses a new tool, or uses a new method to address that piece of content, whether it be, again, bread and butter or something that's going to be more cutting edge. We want to make sure that it's innovative and that it's interesting and proven. So you're going to want to make sure that your proposal articulates that in a way that the reviewers understand and can relate to it. Finally, we want to make sure that it's timely and relevant. So you will see, again, things that I've mentioned, bread and butter topics, things that are an eternal industry challenge for people. That will always be part of the conference. However, we also very closely examine those and give heavier weight to things that are addressing current market conditions that may or may not have existed before. And for example, things that we chose this year that were very timely to the market this year were going to be multiple offers. We had several sessions on multiple offers. We had several sessions on fair housing, since that has become a greater focus for our groups. So you'll see that things that are pertinent to the relevant market conditions, including post-COVID business plans, things like that will also probably be weighted heavier than bread and butter topics, or at least those bread and butter topics will be more competitive because there are more people with those skills since they are evergreen topics. Here are the 13 different categories that you can choose to label your submission. You can choose up to 3 different areas. However, if you choose something besides sales and marketing and social media and video strategies, you actually will have a better chance of being accepted. And that's because the majority of our submissions that come in are in those 2 bottom categories. So any of these other areas, a lot of those topic areas don't have the same competition that exists in those sales and marketing and social media and video strategies. So you'll really want to think about sharpening your skills or pulling out your knowledge based on one of those other areas in order to submit a successful proposal. Again, here's some examples that we focused on for the 2021 program. For this year, multiple offers, diversity, equity, and inclusion, managing teams remotely was a newer topic, post-COVID business planning, and fair housing. For 2022, you can expect that we will be looking for things that relate to our 2022 strategic priorities, and that includes sustainability, resiliency, inclusion, safety, and keeping realtors in the forefront of the real estate transaction. You can also see that we're still going to be looking at managing teams effectively. New technology is always a hot topic. Multi-market selling, we're seeing a lot of selling happening in multiple markets, either in different states or a resort area and also a regular residential area. And also managing your business, which we find we have a lot of requests for things about managing the business of being a realtor versus the selling and buying aspects of things. So things that are really about productivity and financial planning, those kinds of topics are very popular among our audiences, and we don't see as many submissions on them. So all of these are good things to keep in mind as you are planning to submit your proposal for this year. We are going to take some questions now. If there's anything that anybody wants to take a deeper dive into or had additional questions on. So I'm going to take a look at the chat. So there's a question about, is there a recommended length for the video? I would say 1 to 2 minutes is perfect because our reviewers do review. I should mention that we get between 500 and 600 submissions a year. And of those 500 to 600 submissions, only about 50 of them are selected. So we're looking at a 10% acceptance rate. And because of that, our reviewers are reviewing a lot of submissions at the same time. So I do expect that they're only seeing 1 to 2 minutes of your video, which is why we recommend definitely editing it down to a clip and making sure that it is the meatiest content that you can provide for that. Does being a previous speaker at NAR help? And if so, how do you convey that? So it can help. Really, the focus is more on the content. So even though we have a lot of amazing submissions, not all of them will get accepted because we don't have the space. And also it depends on what the focus is for that year. So again, like I said, if things are matching the strategic priorities, those might get heavier weight for that year. So there could be an outstanding submission, but it's not a topic that is of focus for that year. So I would say really making sure that what you are submitting is relevant to current market conditions and our current strategic priorities is going to give you a huge leg up on getting accepted. More so than necessarily being a previous presenter. With previous presenters, sometimes people have experience with them. So that's that. And that way it can be favorable if our reviewers have had experience with you before. And so we do ask for references in the proposal process, but we do prefer that they be not from NAR, like from other NAR departments. It should be demonstrating that you're speaking in a variety of other areas. Past submissions and feedback. So if you had a session, we have usually submitted, at least in the last few years, we have sent back the feedback from your submission or from your actual session. Submissions, again, because there are so many to review, we are not finding that the reviewers have the time to give a fully articulated feedback to non-successful submissions. So I'm not sure, we have tried to do this in the past and it really hasn't, because there's just the scope of what the reviewers are charged with in reviewing things. We have not been able to get to a place where we can provide feedback to all 600 submissions. What is the relative preference by NAR? Can I get some more clarity on that, Chris?
Yeah, so really what I'm asking is for workshops, it takes a little bit more work and you need a different room layout. If you've only got one room that is good for a workshop and you've got 20 rooms on the go, like how does that work in terms of submission? And if I could deliver something as a speaker with slides, or as a workshop, and is it worth submitting it twice?
Oh, so that's a good, thank you for bringing that up. This year we do have a restriction to six different, you can submit up to 6 times for this year. And that is so that we don't get that redundancy. So I would say definitely do not submit the same content more than once with a different format. I would say choose the format that's best for the content, and we can figure that out later, because if the content stands out, the format, we make the logistics work. We make that format work. So I would say that do it the way that it serves the content the best. And then we will, if that content gets accepted, we will work to make sure that it is delivered in the way that it was meant to be delivered. We give those different format options because it's important to us that people are considering the format as part of their proposal, and that it is encompassing the best delivery method for that content. So if you can make that content shine, we can make sure that it shines the way it's meant to.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. We will be posting a copy of the recording to the website. So it will be at conference.realtor under conference year round, right, Stephanie? You can just nod, I can see you.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So yes, that will be posted probably definitely within the next week, probably sooner than that, along with the slides. Elaborating on an example of personal and professional development, that's going to be those leadership topics. So anything that is considered more soft skills. So anything in the leadership realm, or things that might talk about, like every year we do a WCR, a collaboration with WCR, and we put that under personal and professional development. Anything that's under leadership and how to, and like I said, things can be checked off in more than one category. So like if it's something about how to lead a team, you can do brokerage, or you could do brokerage topics and personal and professional development. You can select up to 3 of those attributes for each of your proposals. So I suggest you definitely think about that and what really fits the bill, and what mix of those attributes are going to be best articulate your content. Unique marketing topics. Yes. I mean, we definitely, I don't want to I don't want to say that sales and marketing, I mean, sales and marketing, we have the most number of submissions on, but we also have the most number of content on because we know it's important to our members to get those different newest lead generation techniques, marketing techniques, social media techniques and tools. So we do have a huge part of the program is dedicated to that. But if we're looking at from a standpoint of how do you get into the national program, what's the best strategy for getting into the national program? It's not going to be submitting a sales and marketing session. It's going to be looking at one of those other topic areas and seeing how your proposal, how the content that you can convey fits into one of those areas, because we really need more submissions in those areas. And so you're going to have less competition than you have in the sales and marketing arena. The biggest mistakes is going to be that video. I have people, so the question is, what are the biggest mistakes people make? And it's going to be the video. People really struggle with adding that video link. So making sure that the video link is in there, period. Not having a video pretty much guarantees you will not be presenting at the national conference. And then also making sure that the video is getting to the meat of what you're talking about versus making the reviewers watch 2 minutes or 5 minutes of introduction. They don't need to hear about your credentials from somebody else introing you. They really just need to see your skills articulated. That's what's important to them. They have the application with your references and everything else about you. So it's really redundant actually to include that intro in your video. Those, I would say those are the biggest ones. Next is not being clear enough about what you want to accomplish with your content. So really making sure, I mean, it sounds simple and it sounds actually overly simple, I think, but sometimes people really get very wordy in their takeaways and they get very wordy or clever with their titles. And the less clear it is to people in general, the less clear it's going to be to our reviewers. And that's kind of the first barrier. You know, the second barrier is going to be once you're on site, are they going to go to your session if they don't know what it's about? So making sure that's clear is going to be the number. Those are the two biggest things, is that video and making sure everything in your submission is very succinct and clear. Again, these reviewers have 40 or 50 submissions to review. All submissions get reviewed a minimum of 3 times. Usually they get reviewed more than that. So making that reviewer's job easier by being super clear and making sure that everything that you are responsible for having in your application is in there. Those are going to be the biggest technical ways to make sure that you're considered. And then making sure that the content is compelling and relevant to this year is also, that's going to be the second biggest winning strategy. I think we answered that video question about preferable live video or just a demo. Can be either. It really just needs to convey your skills. There's only one slot for a video link per submission. I think there's a question, is it preferable to do a live presentation video or just a demo? So again, it's just one spot for a link. So you're only going to have one link to put in there, not multiples. So pick your best one. And I would say make sure that that's short. You can also use, if you're submitting more than one proposal, you can use the same video over and over again. That's not a big deal at all. Let me see what else we have in here. Is it beneficial to submit a lot of submission options? So you can submit up to 6 different proposals. Please make sure they are different versus the same. We actually have a couple of reviewers who choose to review every single submission, if you can believe it. We have some really dedicated volunteers. And so they do notice when people submit more than one proposal on the same topic. And so I would definitely, they're not super fans of that happening. So I would make sure that when you're submitting content that it is 6, if you're doing 6 different pieces of content that you're going to be submitting. Is there a theme? There will be a theme, but usually it's more, I'm not sure how to answer this one, because we do usually have a theme, just like we did this year. It was Rise and Shine. but we work on that more with our content groupings once we've accepted things versus asking people to write to a theme, if that makes sense, because whatever the theme of the year is, it's going to be relevant to what's happening in the industry and the environment. So I would not worry about that as much and focus more on those strategic priorities that we have for 2022, because usually there's going to be some sort of tie-in there. Is there a limit? Yes, it's 6 per person. It's 6 different proposals. So you'll go in and you will do a whole proposal start to finish, submit it, and then you would submit another one. So it would be on the same account, it would be your same sign in, but it would be 6 completely different submissions from front to back. And as far as the logins are concerned, it is the same system that it's been for the last 3 or 4 years. So if you remember, or you saved your password, it will probably work for you because we do copy over your accounts. But if it doesn't work for you, feel free to just go ahead and create a new account. It's probably easier than trying to find the old account, which email you used and all that stuff. So just making sure that you use an email you check, because we will be sending out those acceptances, usually at the end of April, early May. The deadline this year is January 11th. So January 11th is when all submissions are due. And then after that, we set it up for the reviewers, which is our committee, to come together, and then they have their reviews assigned, and they have about 4 to 6 weeks to review. And then we go through and make those decisions, usually around that late April, May timeframe. NAR membership is not a requirement to be a speaker. We do allow non-NAR speakers to present, because as Nikki, as you're saying here, some of this material is going to be complementary to what we do, but not necessarily in our industry. And so every year we do have non-industry and non-member speakers. One thing to keep in mind is that we do not have an honorarium for speakers. So while we do offer complimentary registration for the conference, we do not offer an honorarium for speaking or travel expenses. Let's see what else we have. Is there an advantage to submitting now? Will submissions be reviewed and approved as they come in? No. The deadline is the deadline, and then we prepare everything to be reviewed by the submitters. So there is no hurry. I will be honest that usually all of these submissions, we probably get about 200 submissions, 2 weeks out. And then in the last 3 days, we get the balance of the 600. So it's up to you. I think one of the things that could be helpful to you now is to review what the submission application looks like, so that you know how you'll be framing those submissions, and you can practice that or see what you need to do to make sure that it's successful once you're ready to actually put in all of the content. So that would probably be helpful to you, but there is no advantage to submitting now versus later. The question is, I know that you host other virtual events throughout the year. How do we submit proposals for those events? So the annual meeting, the conference and expo, is the only meeting that officially accepts call for proposals, besides AEI, which is the AE Institute. So those are the only 2 that have official call for proposal processes. However, in this application that I have for you with call for proposals, at the end, it does have a list of other events that we host that you can say you'd be interested in presenting at. And we do share your proposal with some of those other areas. So they do a different type, they plan their content a little bit differently than we do. But we do share people who are interested in those different events. We do share your content with them. So it's a good idea to check off anything that you'd be interested in speaking at as one method of approaching that. I don't think relying on that in order to be seen by those other events is the best tactic to be included in those other events. I would definitely reach out to those planners in those committees and those event people hosting those events in order to get a little bit more visibility with them. but you definitely, one strategy is to make sure that you check off any other event that you'd be interested in. All right, let's see. Separate video, nope, you can use the same video link every time. The timeline for the selection process, again, we close the submissions in January 11th, and then usually at the end of April is when we're sending out, end of April or May is when we're sending out those acceptances. I will put the caveat in there that this year, the legislative meetings, which our team also runs, is early this year in that first week of May. So it may actually be that we wait until after we get back from legislative conferences to send out those acceptances. I'm going to actually commit to that and say that's probably that mid-May is probably going to be a more reasonable timeline for us with the change in the legislative dates. Question is, you said that topics other than sales and marketing are really needed. Is that right? What do you need that you never get submittals for? So yes, that is right. Sales and marketing and social media and video strategies are our top two submissions. We get more submissions in those two categories than we get in all of the other categories combined, if that gives you a good idea. So I would definitely look at any of those other categories. Specifically, I will say we don't get a lot in sustainability, and with it being a strategic priority this year, we are going to be looking at sustainability, and we are definitely going to be looking at managing teams in all the ways that you can manage teams, from deciding if you need to start one to running one remotely. All of those team topics are gonna shine this year, as well as sustainability. I think definitely, we went through a couple of those. They're in the slides. I would take a look at that, but literally any of the other topics besides those two are going to give you a better advantage to being selected. Not to say, again, that sales and marketing don't get selected, because they do, and that is the bulk of our program, because we know it is so important to our members. However, if we're talking from a strategy point of view, for those of you who may have not been accepted in the past, it's a great strategy. The videos meant to articulate the content you're presenting? Not necessarily. They are meant to articulate your presentation skills. So, however, I have seen that the committee does react better to videos that are on the content that they mean to present. It's not official, like that's not necessarily what's required, because we are just looking for your skill set. But I will say they like it better, if that's a thing. But it's not required, and it doesn't always necessarily impact the scores. All right, we've talked about when that selection process happens. If you are an agent or someone that helps book speakers, yes, I would submit that you have them submit under their own emails, because we are topping out at 6 per person this year, or per account. So I would work on that. Do you know if it's at the Orlando Convention Center? Yes, it is. That's where all of the content will be. So as usual with our annual conference and expo, the conference content, the education sessions and networking sessions, that will all be at the convention center. And then the governance meetings will be in the hotels surrounding the convention center. Let's see. So this recording will be available within a week, probably sooner than that. And Stephanie always does make sure that she sends out an email to everybody who has signed up to attend. So even if you didn't make it today, or if you did, you'll get an email saying that the materials have been posted. The legislative meetings, so we don't have a call for proposals for that, because if you've ever been to legislative meetings, you know that our space is always very tight as we do the business of the association with all of our legislative topics and meetings and committee meetings. And so we do anticipate having some content, but it's not prolific, because we don't really have space for it. You can check off legislative meetings as one of the other options when you submit your proposal. And I suggest that anybody does that, because if we do have room, we will look at the content that has been submitted for the conference and expo, because it is our same team doing both of those conferences. All right. Okay. Let me just check on the dates for next year stuff. Do we have that handy? Orlando. I know. So one thing we didn't grab. And if anybody else has any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but I know we're a little bit over time. I'm glad that we got to everything. There we go. November 11th through 14th in Orlando. And yes, we'll be using the conference center for the education sessions. And the hotels will be released at the time that we open registration. You'll see which hotels have been contracted for that. All right. Well, I hope everybody found this helpful. We were so happy to see all of you today. And like we said, we're going to be posting this on the website if you need a refresher along with all of the slides. And if you need any questions answered, Steph, can you post the NAR Comp Speak email? And we also have those emails posted at the Conference Year Round website and at the conference.realtor website under call for proposals. So we're definitely here to support you as you submit that proposal. We are looking forward to fresh voices as in addition to our veterans. So thanks everybody for joining us today.